The small pig goes through, get a shot at it, end up getting it with the bow, which was super cool.
That was super cool.
Yep.
None of us are ready.
Nope.
We were in snack mode.
We were in snack mode for sure.
What is up, everybody? I have Mike and Coop with me here right now, and across the way, digitally, we have Mr. Remi Warren. Remi, aloha. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you guys?
We're doing good.
Fantastic, man.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
I don't generally say aloha, but when we're recently back from an incredible trip from Hawaii, I can't stop saying aloha.
Same here, man.
Absolutely.
Between that and Island Jams, I don't know. Things have changed.
I think we've all changed.
I think we all had a lot to learn that summer. No, man, it was such a fun trip. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about this trip that we took to Hawaii, not to just, vacation, sit on the beach, to hunt, do a little bit of fishing, a little bit of spearfishing. We kind of did all the things. Now, Remi, you weren't able to join us for kind of the first 2 days where we, when Mike, Coop, and I did a little bit of spearfishing, a little bit of hook and line fishing, and then also some more mechanized commercial fishing, which I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. But I did want to, because I know you have spearfished that island before, kind of get your take on it. It was my first time. We went out with Robin's buddies. We have a mutual friend on the island, Robin. His buddy Sean was kind enough to take us out, and it was awesome. I'd never done it before. Coop maybe has a little bit.
It was a very cool experience, but there's some parts of that where I would maybe not do it again.
It was kind of like if you've ever seen a cat get in the water, you kind of got in the water at the rate that a cat would get out of the water.
Yeah, and it was I would say more or less it was a catastrophic fail between trying to film it, and the GoPro going to the bottom of the ocean.
We got it back.
And you went in very confident.
I did. I went in full tilt thinking
confident.
all right, either I'm going to crush this or it's not going to go well. And I got in for, I'm going to say, 15, 20 seconds?
Here's what was so funny about that to me, though, because, we get down there and, Sean, we're kind of getting the gear on and I'm, fumbling with it because I haven't snorkeled in a long time. Coop gets geared up. And just goes full send. And then my first thought, in my head, God damn, he's comfortable. Because there was a ledge. It wasn't let's walk in from the sandy beach. The surf is pretty big surf day, I guess, or whatever I'd call that, right? It wasn't flat calm by any means. There was kind of the one little cove that was pretty protected where that was really the only place that we could be
We had some gnarly wind that day. I remember Sean was saying that's, as good as we were going to get it, more or less.
I was still trying to get my flipper situated. Coop's just going for it, and then all of a sudden, then you were kind of out.
And then I went in, and I had 2 GoPros in my hand, and I remembered at that moment of time I needed to swim and tread water, and I'm not a professional
hands,
with my hands,
generally.
Of course. Well, I try to do such, and the GoPro mount breaks in half. And so then I'm I just lost the camera. That's great.
Literally hour 2.
Yeah, right in, straight down 40 feet to the bottom. Luckily, Sean, was solid and had zero hesitation to go get it, which was great. But at that moment, I thought, life's pretty valuable, and I'm going to try to see another day, and so I'm just going to film from the shore.
It was a blessing in disguise, though.
It was.
Because, we had the GoPros with us. Sean was pretty, adept. He was super familiar with using those. And so, to get your perspective from the outside, it worked out.
It did.
It couldn't
Best
have
case
better.
scenario for sure. I mean, considering, like you had said, Marco, I was not confident by any means, but I was okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to just do it. There's no sugarcoating. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
And I just remember getting in the water and then trying to tread, and nothing seemed to work at all.
It was pretty there was a lot going on there. We're in the cove, you got the rocks. It's kind of trying to wash you into the rocks a little bit.
The biggest waves I've ever seen, which were not big at all. But to me, they were not the Mississippi 2-footers, These were, I don't even know, 6-8 foot, maybe. But the rock, between the rock and the waves, it just wasn't a recipe for success in my book.
So I jumped in, and I know more now about snorkeling / spear fishing a little bit than I did when I first jumped in. But like I didn't have my mask set properly. Like when I jumped in, like I tested and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a seal. But the seal like instantly broke when I got like in the water. So then I was kind of doing what you were doing. Like I was trying to kick with my feet and then, get my mask adjusted. But, you're like, yeah, there's a lot going on. And then you're doing that. Then a big wave comes in, goes over the top. You're like, oh, I just drank some salt water.
Delicious.
Tastes fantastic.
But then like after a little bit though, got situated.
Yep.
And it was awesome. Like being, like there was a lot of fish, which was cool. Like a lot of fish to look at, a lot of fish to shoot at. We were using primarily three-prong spears. Sean had brought like a more, I guess what you would consider like a spear gun. And he's like, yeah, use this thing. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just going to keep the training wheels on here a little bit before I start, firing the big guns. But it was super cool. And like I said, I feel like I'd be better at it next time. And I also, my takeaway was I did shoot a fish. Actually, I shot a fish right away. But again, learning. So like, I was so like somewhat surprised. I'm like, oh my God, I got one. Mm-hmm. That like I pulled back on the spear, Remi, and then the fish kind of like slid off, and then I went down in the rocks, and then I couldn't find it. So then later on, I shot a different one, which actually I will say it was actually the furthest that I kicked down the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm following this fish, and I shoot him like, oh my gosh, I got him. So then I push forward on the spear, and then go to swim up, and I'm like, oh man, the light looks
pretty
like kind of far away. So then I swam, which it probably wasn't that far away at all. But then I swam to the top, and
I was waiting on.
We got one.
Yeah, and I was waiting up there for you.
And then Coop got the shot.
I did
of the one fish that I speared.
Yep.
In the meantime, Sean's down there like pew 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 pew. Like I got two at once.
Yeah,
that guy's insane.
And then I got out, and like he was like, all right, I'm gonna go do some like real spear fishing. So then he kicked like way far out, shot some bigger fish,
like far out to the point where Marco and I were like, is he coming back up? This is almost concerning.
Like I was it did make me nervous. I'm like, dude, I can't help you.
No,
like
I'm useless.
Yeah, right.
And because he like went like out the cove, like around the corner.
Yeah. I mean, he's
like,
a couple hundred yards out, I would say, all day.
Yeah, this is like a long way to swim in general.
Made it light work. It was impressive, to say the least.
But yeah, he came back and like, it was just
stringer full.
It was like I said, I was not a pro spear fisherman that day, Remi. However, it like literally, like I've been curious about it for a really long time. So that was my first time doing it. And it lit a fire. Like honestly, that day, like if you told me that I could have done that for the next 5 days, like I may have done it. Like I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, you were jacked after it. You were so excited. You're like, I'm going back to Wisconsin and doing this.
I seriously, and the fish that I shot was
bluegills?
Probably like the size of a bluegill. Yeah. Like and like still though, like it was like,
oh yeah.
What you've spearfished the island a fair amount, right, Remi?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have fun doing it. That's for sure. It's a lot of fun. I like the three-prong too. That's a lot of fun. It's just kind of like going through the rocks, shooting reef fish and other things, and then it's fun to use the spear gun on other fish as well. I don't know. It's a lot like bow hunting. There's things too, like when you're first getting into it. I think there, like you say, like that. Your experience changes the more you get familiar with it, because the first time you're worried about the spear and the waves and there's so many like parts to it, but once you can actually like get in and dive and do a little bit more, it even becomes more enjoyable, because there's like a hunting aspect to it where you kind of have to, wait on certain fish, and the guys that are really good at it, they know like all the way certain fish interact and do things, and they kind of, sometimes you'll see one fish like it's got a rock that it likes, and it'll be cruising out and then come back to that spot, and you can sneak up behind rocks and other stuff. So it's like a combination of fishing and hunting, which is two awesome things. So it's a lot of fun, really.
Those are like my two favorite things in the world. Yeah. So
like you're combining into one.
Combining them into one.
It's like if there's a Venn diagram, it's like hunting over here, all the cool stuff, fishing over here, and then like it crosses in that portion. You're like, oh, cool, that's spearfishing. So I think if you like both those things, you would probably enjoy spearfishing.
It makes a lot of sense. I would have been like, I mean, I've seen like, other guys do like, I guess what I'd call like serious spearfishing, which I'm like intrigued by that. But I guarantee you, like I would have been content like shooting at those little fish for like, maybe not forever. Maybe it's like anything. You're like, oh, I want like maybe a greater challenge or something like that. But I guarantee I would have been content for a while. And then like you were saying, Mike, like I was doing I've known for a while in our state, you can shoot panfish and rough fish. You can spearfish for them. And, I don't have a whole lot of interest in catching panfish, but shooting panfish, I have a lot of interest.
I can't say I blame you.
What are some things? Well, okay. Well, here's one thing that I learned, another like unsuccessful thing a while back. Actually, it was another crazy hunting with Ranella up on Prince of Wales, but he dove in with like snorkel gear and got a bunch of sea cucumbers that we ate, like one of the most delicious creatures in the world. So then a couple years later, I was hunting with my buddy Rob Ensley and Joey Pyburn. We were hunting black bears up there, and I'm like, dude, I'm bringing a wetsuit. Like, we got to get these sea cucumbers; they're delicious. Ended up going in at the last day. We weren't in a sea cucumber rich area. I did bob around the ocean for like 2 hours. Didn't find any sea cucumbers. But what I did figure out in short order was facial hair was not conducive to getting a seal on the mask.
Okay.
So like my mask was like useless. So then I had actually brought like a set of regular swim goggles with me. So then I was like, just like having to use those. How do you get a seal when you have a beard, Remi? Do you get a seal with your mask?
No, water comes in. You can shave like that low portion there, or just like I'll trim it a little bit lower. I don't ever fully shave. It's just not in my ethos, but I'll trim it a little bit. And then you can rub like, I don't know, they've got like some like Vaseline or something on your beard. They've got like some silicone beard sealer stuff that like kind of gets in between the hairs, but then you got like silicone in your beard. It's kind of
I feel like we need a picture of beardless Remi Warren from back in the day.
Yeah. I don't know.
The last time I shaved, I think I was like, it was an accident, and I was like 18.
That's when the guard slips, and you're like,
no. What have I done?
You just pot committed at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Any other?
But yeah. Oh no, I mean that's it. Like and then waters. I just bear it. I just have like half a mask full of water half the time, which is not cool. I don't like that. But generally, I just like trim the beard lower, and then if you can like kind of shave this portion a little bit, and then I'll run like some kind of sealer, like Vaseline or something underneath it.
I'm gonna contribute my failed attempt at my beard.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. That wouldn't have worked for you.
It wouldn't have.
No, at all.
Because I remember like the whole swimming thing was obviously important, but then also like seeing and breathing, not being able to see and breathing in water was also contributing to the fact that I was freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, it's never good when you're like having trouble breathing and then a wave comes and then you like kind of breathe in / swallow like a giant gulp of salt water.
Yeah, sounds very familiar.
Yeah, that happened to me a couple times. What for a person who would be new to like what would be? Do you know any like what would be some basic other tricks for spearfishing if a person was like, I want to try that, Remi?
Oh, I would say the first thing would be to do some kind of free diving safety course, or like online, or like just do a lot of research on it, because it's an easy way to die if you aren't careful. Like if you don't know what you're doing and you aren't you want to definitely dive with a partner, especially if you're new to it, or always. And then, yeah, I mean, just understanding like breath holds and the things to do, how to clear your ears so you don't blow your eardrums out. Just, good technique for entering and like what to do, how not to panic. I think that's all like good stuff. I actually just started spearfishing just by like not knowing how to do it. And then I did something like that and realized I did a lot of dumb stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Cool. Yeah.
Good to know.
There's this, the first technique is like, you just don't ever let your air out. Which I was like, I used to like dive down like 40 feet and then on the way up, just like let all my air out. So dumb. Like I just, and I'd be like with people that couldn't even dive down to get me. I'd be like with my little brother who could dive like 10 feet and couldn't clear his ears. So it was just like, you know, things that I just didn't know, and I used to do it all the time. Like I just had no knowledge of it. So I think that that's actually probably a pretty solid thing to do, because it can't. I mean, you're hunting in an environment without oxygen, so you should kind of know what, like, you know, the basic safety stuff. Just like if you're going hunting, you're going to take hunter safety, and you should know the basic safety stuff of firearms and bows and all that kind of stuff. I think spearfishing is no different. You know, I think that's step one. And then, you know, and then just, it is like, I mean, out of all the like hunting, fishing kind of things, you don't need a lot of different equipment. Like if you're in an area where you could three-prong, you can buy a, you know, $30 three-prong and a snorkel and a $5 snorkel, and you can pretty much hunt any kind of fish within the reef system. And then, you know, you could kind of graduate to a spear gun. You know, need some flippers and some other stuff, but like you can actually get into it fairly inexpensive. Just starting, kind of like, you know, fishing, you kind of get like the basic stuff and have a good time.
Yeah, actually, I didn't really think about it, but like, yeah, the gear compared to, I'd say, a lot of outdoor activities is fairly minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it goes up. Like you just, you know, you keep adding things, but like actually there, you know, it depends where you're at too. Like there's some places where three-pronging doesn't work super well. But like in Hawaii and, you know, probably a lot of places in Florida and other stuff like warmer water. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for that kind of spearfishing.
Yeah, I guess I was definitely thinking of it within the context of like the more like, you know, shallow water, reefy stuff. It's like you want to go do, you know, like you said, either other regions or, you know, like the big boy stuff where you need like, you know, a $200,000 boat, like, you know, then your expenses like
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair to say.
But like you said, man, I guess if you could like spear panfish, I feel like a three-prong would be perfect for that. You could essentially just use a set of goggles and a three-prong and probably, you know, collect panfish till your heart's content.
Be keeping an eye out on my Instagram this spring and summer for all the panfish images. So we did that. I'd say I would call it a success.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we did a little, I guess, hook and line fishing ish with Brian. We went out on his commercial boat. Brian Etheridge, he's a professional chef. He's got
amazing chef.
He's got a like I'd say like a commercial boat set up, but like, and I'm probably butchering this, but he's kind of got like an A to Z component of like, he's got this commercial boat. They go out, they catch, you know, ahi, other fish, and then bring them back. And then that is like part of his commercial or part of his chef business. You know, so it's kind of like they're going from, you know, he's got, you know, a captain, Chimo, that's working for him and other stuff. And like I said, I'm butchering this, but it's pretty cool process. The boat was super cool. Cool story with the boat. He worked on the boat for several years, got it up and running, and then the reels that they're primarily using, like I'm generally used to like either a spinning reel or
like a bait caster of some
like
sort.
a bait casting, or, you know, just like a trolling rod with like a level wind, and they were using like, I guess, like, you know, like big game style saltwater reels, but there was no line guide on it, so like you're having to guide the line with your thumb, which that was kind of new to me because I always had like a you know, like a level wind on it.
Yep.
And then but the bulk of the fishing that they were doing, they were electric reels, which I'd never run before, and I would say it definitely makes
that was interesting.
Really efficient, pretty easy.
I mean, especially in like the commercial side of it, it absolutely makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you're there to catch fish,
Right?
and not spend your time catching the fish. You know what I mean? Like I feel like faster is definitely better for those guys.
Yeah, it was definitely like more, you know, mechanized, but it was still like they're still doing all the things to like find the fish, get on the fish, throw the right baits down at, you know, whatever depth, like how far the lines are going out, like they're doing, and then really though, the other thing that was like kind of came to light for me was it was almost a necessity, because we caught a bunch of fish. We caught some ahi. We caught apparently, which I had zero context, but a giant rainbow runner.
Oh yeah,
giant fish. New to me, but it was cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Apparently it was like a big, like Brian's like, that's the biggest one I've ever seen. Then I, like,
and we're just like, oh, okay.
You almost feel bad as a first timer because you can't appreciate it.
Yeah, you don't know exactly what you have.
But and then they're like, oh, do you want to try and like, you know, just like whatever sport fish, you know, hook them up on, you know. And so we hooked up 2 ahi that way, but trying to fight them, they both got eaten by sharks. Like before we could even like move them at all. Like, we're trying to, I'm trying to reel these fish in. They're big, strong fish. And then like just fighting them and just like really I wasn't really able to, gain much line on them before. Sharks came in, ate them, cut them off. So
right. I feel like soon as like if you even got to the point, like soon as those fish would hit the top of the water, those sharks were on them. Just
I
like
remember
that.
you were filming.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta get a shot.
The
of
boat
this.
was just up and down and up and down.
Well, and then we caught that one fish that we were bringing in on the electric lines, and even bringing it in with the electric reels. I mean, this fish at this point is like it's coming in at a fairly high rate of speed
For sure.
I guess compared to like reeling a fish in, right? And it had at least 2 sharks like on it, like visibly like just tracking it and trailing it. I mean, like
it was cool. It was interesting to see, though. I mean,
it also like brought to light, as much as I was talking about like, like spearfishing, I want to like do more of that. I don't want to do it out there.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we were how many miles off? Like what? That was a good 4 or 5 hour boat ride at least. 5 hours probably.
I think it was a 6-hour run ish to where we got. And yeah, there was a lot of sharks out there. Like a lot, I feel.
More than what would be ideal for my swimming. For sure.
I'm out.
Yeah, hard pass.
Speaking of coming to light, Mike, by this point of the fishing trip, how were you doing?
Oh yeah. So essentially, we got out. So we allowed. Okay, let's go back a little bit. We get to the launch, right? 12:50, I think. Would be 12:30 maybe in the morning.
I think we woke up at midnight.
Okay.
To be at the launch by whenever. Yeah.
Got there, met those guys. Went all the way out. I took some Dramamine. You took some Dramamine. Marco, you just have an iron stomach.
No,
I don't know.
No, I popped it.
Okay.
I popped
Did you?
one
Okay.
at least.
Okay. So maybe you were the one not to take any.
Yeah, I think I took it late after what you're about to say.
We get out there. I start kind of feeling a little weird, right? Like 2 hours in maybe to this ride. It's like kind of weird. The sun starts coming up, so you can't really, before the sun starts coming up, you can't see anything, so you can't really see the waves. And I've never got seasick ever. And we start getting out there. I'm like, I kind of start feeling a little weird, and like look at Coop, and he's like, dude, you're white.
You do not look well.
Oh no! So I ended up just basically dying. Yakking over the side, I passed out in the bottom in the cabin area. You got a grand picture of me, videos of me, phenomenal stuff. And then thankfully, Coop,
thank you, Mike. That's a big compliment coming from the video guy. So
thankfully, Coop was there.
Breathtaking shots, really,
to pick up the slack. So that was the wrath of my experience.
Yeah, I would say. So I grew up fishing in Washington. We had growing up, we had a 19-foot Aluma Weld, and we'd go out in like pretty big water. Probably sometimes bigger water than you should be in a 19-foot boat. But that stuff was the biggest stuff I've been in.
Oh yeah, there's like Midwest comb, and then there's like Hawaii comb, and then Hawaii rough. And remember, he was like, "Oh yeah, these will be." It was like it's a little rough.
I think they said like 8. Like there was some, a lot of 8 stuff, and I think there was probably some 10-foot stuff out there. Which I mean, I don't know. That's big water to me.
Big enough to me.
When you're at the bottom of the wave and you see nothing, and then you only see anything when you're at the top of the wave, like that's those some big rollers. Like I honestly was surprised. Like Coop, good on and me. Like to me, it was like definitely a constant. Like I was constantly cognizant of like. Not staring at anything for too long.
You and I talked about
that.
Like, my eyes were always moving at something.
And like not sticking your head down for too long. Like it was, but we caught some fish. So we caught ahi, rainbow runner. I'm trying to think. Did we catch? Oh,
jeez.
There was like one other type of fish.
Yeah, I think there was 3.
It was like a different type of tuna, like some sort of jack.
We caught some mahi too, I think.
Oh, and mahi.
Yeah.
Which that actually was, to me, that was the coolest part because all of a sudden, Chimo was like, we reel a fish in, and he saw, or I think Brian caught a mahi.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden Chima was like, pitching some baits over the side, and all of a sudden he's hucking these hand lines out, and I'm like, what the heck is this guy doing?
That was cool.
That was really cool.
And then he starts just yarding in these mahis with a hand line over the side of the boat.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. And he's like, he's like a man of few words, pretty quiet dude, like super cool, amazing
Great
dude.
dude.
Hell of a boat captain. Like that guy can fish.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you want to do it? I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do
Sign
it.
Yeah, your face when he said you want to do it is like his dad.
Eyes got like
like your dad was just like saying, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And you're like, "Oh yeah."
I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah.
And that was like so crazy cool. Like, baiting those things up, pitching over the side, and just kind of letting it drift back. And he's like, ding, 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 bam, and then, bring them in and flip them over the boat. So I think I landed 2 that way. I had one, I was trying to bring it over the gunnel, and it bounced off and flipped off. I was super bummed. But that was neat.
Yeah, that was
It was a cool experience for sure.
I didn't even know people did that.
No, not at all.
I didn't know that was...
I mean, it makes sense, like, don't overcomplicate things, but at the same time, it seems like when you have this elaborate process to try to just even get on fish, not to mention then you just go throw a hook and a piece of bait on the end of a...
Right.
Essentially
a hand line.
Yeah, hand line, and then all of a sudden it's just like the swarm comes and fish just...
They weren't leader shy because, like, the main line of the hand line was basically, like, small diameter rope.
Yes, I would consider it like a small anchor rope.
Right.
Pretty much.
The other cool thing about that to me was like the contrast between the two. Like you've got like this mechanized like electric reel, big game gear, and then being like almost like equally effective with a hand line.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah, to see those guys, work their operation, how efficient it is, was just amazing. Like, Chimo's throwing out ropes. I mean, he's just like, pounding the fish, throwing them in the center. I mean, getting it back out. I mean, the efficiency those guys have is just incredible.
As like an innocent bystander, like you want to help, but I also know that I'm just going to be in the way.
Yes. I definitely, there was many times, not many times, because like there's a lot that I didn't exactly know, but like, just simple things like, okay, these lures are in a mess. I might be able to help the guys out when they go try to change them, or I want to make this way worse, and just maybe I should just stay away.
Yeah. Here's your lures. Bro.
Yeah, here's your nest.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So we're keeping the other thing I'd say about this, basically this entire trip, Remi, is like we had a pretty aggressive pace of planned activities
that we did.
Oh yeah.
So we go straight from that to we get back, we meet up with you. Now you're here.
Yep.
Thank goodness you're here.
Yes.
And we're going to go hunt the next day. So that's another thing that I've never done is hunt Hawaii. Actually, I've never really fished Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii before, but like never fished it, never hunted it. So like I'd say overall for me personally, like seeing it from this entirely new perspective was just like really neat. Like, and I think it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't get to see, the island has so much more, the islands have so much more to offer than just like, don't get me wrong, I love to sit on the beach and, have a umbrella drink, right? Like I do enjoy that, but there's a lot going on there. Remi, you've hunted various parts of Hawaii for a lot of years, yeah?
Yeah. Different places, different species. I primarily like to chase the axis deer just because they're so delicious. There's just, and there's, it's a fun hunt. It's a challenging hunt. But yeah, there's different islands have different things. Pigs, wild goats. There's even mouflon sheep in some places. There's even blacktails somewhere. So, like a little bit of everything. Which is pretty cool, and kind of like the year-round season kind of thing is awesome about it too. So most of the time that I'm hunting there is sometime other than our fall season here, so it makes it nice. Like you can go out, you can get whether it's beginning of the year or springtime or middle of summer. There's a lot of opportunity to be had. Target-rich environment in some places as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like. It's like definitely in contrast to, I'd say, a lot of places, the year-round season like provides a really cool level of flexibility for, like you said, like a quotation mark off-season hunt, like compared to, other places. And then even just, flexibility with like your work schedule or a family vacation, perhaps. I mean, I'd probably
feel like it's a good opportunity for like guys like us who just want to scratch the itch early.
Yeah.
I assume I know Remi's the same way. Like,
Yeah.
when you can
I
go,
got a
you
lot
gotta
of
go.
itches that I scratch. Yeah, exactly. Itchy.
Speaking of that, like year-round season, one of the like more interesting things I realized there was, and I didn't know this, Marco, till you shot your first buck. I guess I almost wonder, like, is a year-round season kind of like correlated to, you have like different herds, how like we seen some bucks that were fresh out of velvet, some bucks that were shed with just a little bit of velvet growing back. Like, does that contribute to, a year-round season? Or is it just like there's so many different herds that it doesn't necessarily matter?
Oh, a little bit of both. I mean, some of it is like the axis deer, like there are in Hawaii, there's kind of like this kind of like a general time frame that they do things. And then there's ones that are just off cycle. So yeah, like at any point in the year you can, but like generally around January, February, a lot of the mature deer are shed, but there will be some that are still breeding that time, or, like some that are in velvet. You just kind of get a mixture. But then the other thing is, I think you get a lot of places that have year-round seasons. It's invasive species. So that's kind of like a thing to kind of help knock down the numbers. So it doesn't really matter if the bucks have antlers or not. Like, you can always shoot does, you can always shoot this or that to try to get some of the numbers down a little bit, especially when it comes to like the goats and pigs and deer, whatever. There's just, when there's no predators, you kind of like hunting is the main source of regulating the populations. And so, you got to kind of have it open all year if you really want to like keep things in check.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's kind of crazy. It's like yeah, they're they're a non-native species, but then also they've been there for so long, and there's no question like they do have an impact on the native plants that are on the island, but they've been there since like the 1800s, and so they're like kind of woven into the fabric of the culture of the island, and they're an important food source for some people. So like, I think it's interesting. Like, and then like you said, Remi, they've got no predators, so hunting really is the only, I guess I'd say it's a large form of population management
For sure.
Yeah, it's like it seems like a little bit of a tricky balancing act, though, for sure. They're cool animals, though.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing animals.
Oh my gosh.
Very cool.
Neat looking. Like we said, they're not native to the islands. Introduced to mid 1800s ish. And they're cool looking. They're almost like they're like a giant fawn crossed with like an immature bull elk.
Yep. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Or I just like a giant fawn. You know what's interesting, Remi? Do you know? Yeah, they just never lose their spots.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's camouflage. I think it's it's just their like form of camouflage because they're from places where that blends in, and they do blend in pretty well. It's funny, you think those spots would be more of a giveaway, but it just kind of breaks up that pattern a little bit. Well, you think about like why fawns have spots, and it's to blend them in better. I think so. When you look at it like that, you're like, oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They're cool capes.
Oh, amazingly cool cape. I thought they would stand out way more, and they really
Oh my
do.
gosh.
Tough to spot.
Impossible.
Or
to spot.
like that first morning, I'm like, "There's a buck right here," and you guys are like, "Where?" And I'm like, "It's 300 yards away." Like, right
Remi,
there.
not to
And
make
everyone's
myself
like,
sound-
I can't find it.
Not to sound even worse, but Remi, that stock, one of the stocks you and I went on, there was a nice buck in like 4 doe just in that little crevice, and Remi's doing his thing, mouth tab and all, and he's creeping up there, and I'm just trying to see these animals. Like, so so I'm not getting busted, and 2, so I can film them, of course, but Remi's like, they're right there. They're like 30 yards. And I'm like, I have no idea where. I'm looking for this giant bodied thing, and all he sees is, he had to beat on the whole time. But, all you're seeing, especially the does, is basically their little head sticking out and ears flickering, but it was, they blend in. Like, props to their camo strategy, because it works.
Oh, yeah. And I do have to give you a big compliment. I mean, obviously, this is something I knew beforehand. Remi. Like, I feel like I've got like at least a pretty good game eye.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your game eye is pretty next level.
Next level.
Like, it was impressive. Like, you'd be like, there's one, and I'm like, 10 minutes later after you're walking me into it, I'm like, that's what you saw? Like, yeah, there's one. It's like 5 miles away. I spot it with my naked eye, and it's like I can see an ear in the spotting scope, Remi. But
Yeah,
so
lots of practice.
yeah. So getting back to, I guess, a little bit more of the day by day. We get up early. We go hunt. We're in an area that you have hunted before, and actually Sean joined us from Spearfishing the other day, so that was cool. So it was all of us out there together. And like you said, we spot a buck fairly right off the bat.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
It was exciting.
We had a fantastic, I feel like, first glassing point, too.
Yeah.
It was like classic, yeah. What describe a little bit
It looked
about
like we weren't going to see anything, and then it's like it's one of those things where and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there they are. Probably been there the whole time, just behind something or in that tall grass, and finally stepped out, and there he was.
There he was.
There he was, Marco.
And then the buck walks through. I think you guys are like, that's like an okay buck, like, you want to shoot that buck? I'm like, yeah, I want to shoot that buck.
Looked huge to me.
The answer is yes. And some classic, we're videoing it, hence, having Mike and Coop there, also for good company. And kind of the classic hunter videographer, like, I'm on him, you're not on him.
Are you
you're
on him? Are you on him now?
I mean, Remi was on him. I was definitely not on him. So I was like, Remi, where is this buck at? It's like, okay, just give me it.
There was one point where like everything was lined up for me, and I was like, I think I said, I'm gonna kill him, and Mike's like, no.
Not yet.
Eventually we got it put together. I did almost throw it out. I missed a chip shot. There, it's out there. I didn't want to hide it. I can't hide it anymore.
In your defense, Marco, I will say the pressure was high.
The pressure was
extremely
high. You had like
high.
5 sets of eyes on you.
Yeah.
I mean.
And we're like, are you going to shoot it yet? Wait, no, don't shoot it yet. Are you going to shoot it yet? Wait, don't shoot it.
And he was kind of getting to that point where like, it was like, once he kind of left that last hole, like he was going to kind of crest and like maybe be out of sight. So I did miss. Luckily, it's actually a tactic that I like to employ. I shot. I scared him towards us, and then we got him.
Followed up, and it was fine.
And made a spectacular shot.
Yeah.
But that was cool though. Like that was like really, it was amazing to have success. Like it was awesome to have success so quickly. And like to just like see one right away and be like, oh my gosh, those things are beautiful. They're so cool looking. And then we got them, got to walk up on them. But the other cool thing that like sometimes you don't want to, like even for instance, like last weekend, like I hunted whitetails first sit of the year, had a little buck come through, and I'm like, I don't want to end it that early because you end it right. But in Hawaii, you're like, cool, I got one. Let's get it taken care of, and then your hunt's not over.
Right.
Like there was like feral goats out there. You could shoot a couple axis deer. If you got lucky. So like, it was like cool to be like, oh, you can have that early success, but still, not be done. So, but yeah, Remi, that was another good spot by you though, because I did not see that thing when it first came. Like I don't even know if I would have seen it.
I know I didn't see it. I didn't see it till we walked up to it.
What was going through your head this whole time, Remi?
No, I mean, I think it was like, I was like, oh, sweet, there's a buck. And yeah, and then, we kind of went from like, I was like, oh, this will be a good test of like how fluid everything goes. Cause sometimes on a hunt, right, and there's like 4 or 5 people, and man, like, as we learned later, like just like walking around with that many people and like trying to get everything right, it can be difficult. Like it adds definitely a challenge to just like being out hunting. So I think like when people like see a video or something, they don't really realize like the added challenge of just that extra component to kind of like capture it. So that like does play a factor in the hunt. And I thought like, ooh, this is actually a really good opportunity here to work out the kinks, whether it works or not. But also, like, it was a pretty solid setup. Like, we had a ridge with a rock, cliff, crawl up. Everybody sat there. Everybody can watch. The sun was, like, in our eyes. But, yeah, it was, like, a pretty solid setup on a deer that had no clue we were there, within range. So I was like, yeah, this is going to work out. This is going to be awesome.
It was, yeah.
Cool.
And then, like you said, like, it was just so solid. It's like, okay, feel a little bad. Let's fire a warning shot, No, but it was cool. And then like walking up to it, like I was just like, oh my God. I mean, they're like just like
gorgeous.
They're gorgeous.
Oh
like,
man.
Just like, yeah.
Smaller than I thought they would be, to be honest. A little bit smaller.
I think that buck might have been. You would know a lot more than I would. Remi.
Yeah.
Like,
that was a mini head. I don't mean to like, it was an awesome deer. It was a beautiful deer.
Yeah.
Everything, like you encounter that. It's happened a few times where, I've seen it with mule deer. My dad shot one. Like, I think it probably had crossed with a blacktail or something. We're looking at this buck, like 3 of us there going, that's guaranteed 175. And we shoot it and it's like 145-inch buck, and you can like pick it up with 2 hands. You're like, everything's proportional, everything's perfect. It's a mature body. Everything looked great, and it's just like a miniature version of the species, which happens. Yeah. I've seen it a few times. I've seen it with a desert sheep one time, seen it with a mule deer, and now I've seen it with an axis deer. It's like everything was like that axis deer was just smaller. I don't know, but it was awesome.
I will say, like, and I think the video will probably show that, because, like, in the grand scheme of axis deer, not that I'm, some professional, but, like, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's a giant. Mm-hmm. But you'd be like, oh, that's a good buck.
Yep.
That's exactly what I would think.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
And it was like the coos deer. It was like the coos deer of axis deer. Like, it was just, like you said, everything was, like, proportional. It was just micro.
Yeah. But it was awesome either way.
But, yeah, so we move on, and then, you guys, Remi spots some axis deer again, naturally. You guys put the stock on them, and then walk us through, like, even like what were you looking for, Remi? Where were you looking? And then, like, how did you spot that buck? And then, like, your plan and moving in on it.
Oh yeah, well, I was just bow hunting. I had the mouth tab because I was casted up, just couldn't. I guess for people who don't know, so I had a pretty extensive injury to my right hand, so it's pretty much useless. On this hunt, I was in a full cast, so I think I could move my fingers a little bit, but not real well. So I kind of trained myself to shoot a bow by like biting down on this. It was actually a piece of a Vortex bino harness. I just cut it off and put it on the D-loop. Then I just bite down on that and then push forward, draw back. I think I was shooting, what was I shooting? 55 pounds, 60 pounds then. And then I just open my mouth to shoot the bow. So it's just like shooting it with your fingers, but you draw it back with your mouth. So there's some complications with that. Like, I like to be pretty close, 40 yards or less. Yeah, close. For this hunt, I was pretty much just looking for does, really, unless it was like a giant, really big mature buck. Because I've shot plenty of deer and just kind of knock the numbers down. Plus, they're so delicious. So I was just looking for does. Actually, to be honest, the smaller the doe, the better. Like, real tasty morsels is what I was on the hunt for. And so I spotted a buck bedded, and we snuck into what, like maybe 20 yards?
Yeah, I would say.
We were close, 20, 30 yards. But it was like it was just a young buck. It was like a nice buck, but I just didn't really want to shoot it. So I was trying to get one of the does, but I think there was a couple bucks in that group, and the bucks all offered shots, but the does were like real hidden. So I decided to try to crawl in. I think I crawled like under 20 to one of the bedded ones, just hoping to like maneuver so when they stood up I'd get a shot. We sat there for a long time, maybe 20, 30 minutes, but I also was like, we could sit here all day, or I could try to make a move now, and decided to make a move so we didn't have to just bake in the sun for any longer. And I can't remember, I think something happened. Oh, the wind swirled, didn't it?
Yeah.
Wind swirled. You're like waiting there forever. Like, oh, this is going to be perfect. I was like, if it's a big buck, maybe. But it's like, okay, there's a lot of does around. I don't want to waste an entire day waiting for this one doe out of this group of bucks. And the wind swirled and they blew out. But I feel like had we wanted to shoot a buck, we would have tagged a buck right there. Would have been cool. But
for sure. I mean,
that was a cool spot.
It was a cool spot.
It was a cool spot. Yeah.
Generally, like, it's generally like seems like it's like you have the opposite problem. Like, I can't say that I've ever been in the situation where I only had shots at the bucks.
No.
Like, that's cool. It was really cool to you guys like sneak in so close. Like, I mean, you guys were definitely in the danger zone for like a really long time.
I just remember thinking, I cannot be the reason that they bust out. Tiptoe, do whatever you have to do. I cannot be the reason.
But that was.
Did we take our shoes off for that? I think we might have.
Yeah, did we? I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah, we went shoes off. We went super stealth.
Ninja mode.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good sneak. That was a fun. I like that. Like where you're like, all right, let's just get in, and then we got in, and we're like, let's get a little closer. Let's get a little closer. We were in close. Like to sneak in on a group of deer like that is pretty tough. It's pretty dry. It's kind of like loud, kind of dry country. So when you can get in like that, that's you did something right. And those deer can be pretty keyed in because later in the week we hunted an area that was a little bit drier and. No, we should have made some different plays there because it was like we were not sneaking in. It's like one person's too many. Yep. It was tough.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like the more people that you add, it's just harder.
Oh my gosh! You start adding camera guys, and then you got equipment and all that stuff. It literally makes everything so much more difficult. So when it does go right, it's like. We did it.
It's magical.
It is. It's magical.
And I feel like even in other than like in what I would call the jungle country that we went into that one day, I would say like the lower land that we were in, majority of the time, there's not a ton of cover in there. So like you really have to play your wind. And like in Remi and I's case, that one time when it swirled, they were just gone. Especially how keen they are. It's like you get, like you said, everything has to be perfect.
Yep. And I know. So after I shot that buck in the morning, I picked up my bow because I knew if I continued to hunt with the rifle, then I would just continue to gun everything down that I saw. So I figured, no. Fair enough. But no, it just seemed like it's like, let's go bow hunt together. It's like we've had some success. Let's go. And there were a lot of feral goats in the area. We were seeing those pretty consistently.
Yep.
So yeah, we stalked those deer that ended up, blowing out of there. Got on some goats later that day. And then, golly, kind of like full disclosure. I guess everybody makes a bad shot every once in a while, but like, was that you, Coop and I? I think Remi spotted them again. And then we kind of looped around, put the sneak on these two billies, and got to 40. I think it was like right at 40.
Yeah, it was either 40 or maybe a little less, if I remember right.
It could have been, but like up to the hunt, like I was like actually shooting my bow, like the best I've been shooting my bow. Like my confidence level was through the roof. Been shooting a lot, like just feeling good about the way my bow was shooting. When we got here, or like when we landed, like first thing I did, shoot my bow, and I'm like, dude, 20, 30, 40, you're dead on. Like my sight tape was dead on before I left. Like I was like, things are good. And they, honestly, like, I don't know if I misjudged the angle of the goat, or, it was a little bit windy, so my pin was floating a little bit, but like when that shot broke, I was like, that was a good shot. And when the arrow hit, it hit basically at least exactly where I thought it wanted to, or, pretty darn close. And I thought that the arrow had hit quartering, like he was quartering away, and then it went in, penetrated. And they're not like giant animals, so I thought it had like hit his offside shoulder and then just like
stuck.
He kept like stayed in him, he kept it with him and ran off. Like I was actually expecting to see him tip over. And then long story short, like we gave the goat some time. Like it was an epic stalk. Like I said, the shot felt good. Ended up not being a good shot. Hit him in the shoulder, and then we, followed up and got on him a couple times. Never was able to get another arrow in him, and then we lost him in the cliffs. Which those cliffs, Remi, they kind of just fall off.
Yeah, they aren't like go walk on cliffs because it's pretty loose and pretty steep. So, yeah, we followed him a long ways, and it was just hit him in the shoulder, and yeah, I think those things are tough enough. They just brush it off, like, yeah, okay, something in my shoulder, but yeah, he just once they get into the cliffs, and it's like safety, like it's just below us, and there's nothing you could do really from there. Yeah,
that's like, they really are a cliff. Like you just wouldn't. those just seemed extra cliffy. So that was a bummer. Like, that was a bummer. You know, and again, it's like you never want to lose an animal. You definitely don't want an animal to suffer, you know. But, you know, hopefully, like you said, fingers crossed, like, you know, get hit in the shoulder, hopefully brush it off. And then on the flip side, there definitely wasn't a lack of goats there. So, like, I don't know. It's like I said, that's not how you want an animal to die, but there were definitely plenty of goats. They're non-native. You know, they're affecting the landscape. Like, it's
very invasive.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, it's interesting. I don't think we hurt the population that day.
Nope.
No. I've never seen so many goats in my life.
Oh, gosh.
On one hillside.
Yeah,
That little
I would
walk
say that
took
the
down.
goats probably do more damage than anything. They're pretty destructive, and they can kind of be anywhere. You know, I mean, think about like a goat eats everything, and they definitely live by that. You know, they're in some like crazy places.
Yeah, I mean, and they must be they must multiply pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
So that was a bummer, but I'm trying to, and then that kind of, I mean, we hunted some more that day, went to a few different spots. Would you say, so before we left on this trip, like I talked to several people, Remi, and they're like, oh yeah, bow hunt it. If you want to get good at stalking deer, you know, you might blow some out, then you go over the next hill, find some different ones, find some different ones, find some different ones. But I feel like we definitely saw deer, you know, but like it wasn't like crazy like how people were talking about it. Was that a little bit different than what you've experienced in the past?
I mean, it's just hunting, you know. Sometimes you go out and you're like, you remember the really good days better too. Like sometimes you go out and you're like, I saw 100 deer. That was crazy. And sometimes you go in there and you're like, I didn't see any deer. And it just seemed like we had more days where we just didn't see as many deer, which I think, you know, where we were hunting, like generally there's a lot of deer, but they just weren't there while we were there. So
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, I think that, you know, I was expecting to see a lot more deer. Like I don't think I ever saw a buck that I would have shot. Maybe, I don't know, which is pretty abnormal. Normally you'd see like, you know, at least one or two good bucks, you'd think. But yeah, I think that we didn't see as many as normal, but it could have been like a factor of just a lot of different things, just like anything else, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was even wondering if like the amount of goats that were in there was affecting perhaps like the deer. I have no idea, right? It's like complete speculation. But if like the deer were like, yeah, like, you know, I don't know, I don't like this many goats around, or maybe the goats were even eating.
Right, lack of vegetation to some degree of, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. Like the island's kind of been going through a pretty good drought too, so like animals are just a little bit more dispersed and maybe not in places that. I mean, that could have a lot to do with it. And those goats can be pretty hard on the drier areas. So a dry area that probably held a lot of deer that's been in drought, you know, is pretty dry. So definitely could have taken away a lot of the deer's food source and pushed them into just thicker cover, thicker places, which we ended up doing a little bit of jungle hunting and getting on some deer and goats and pigs and everything in there too. So, you know, we kind of adjusted our tactics a little bit based on what we were seeing, which I thought was a good strategy, especially, you know, to go with the bow, like hunt that close country, because then all your shots are just real close, hunt that thick stuff. And that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I mean, perfect segue, because I was about to say, like, speaking of thicker country, yeah, that jungle. Which talk about like contrast of like where we initially started hunting, which I would like it almost seemed like, I don't know, like more arid.
Yeah,
I would give a better term, like more open, glassable, and then you go to the jungle where it's like, if you see it, it's likely in range. That was cool. Like, I enjoyed every aspect of the hunt, but I feel like I particularly enjoyed being in the jungle.
Yeah, the jungle
was gnarly.
Cool.
It was cool.
Sure.
What do you like better, Remi? Do you like the jungle or the more open stuff?
I like wherever the animals are, but you know,
Yes.
like I like. I mean, honestly, I like hunting that thick kind of jungle country. It's kind of fun. It's just different, you know. Like you see a lot of like. You just kind of, it feels like you're kind of on a different kind of adventure. It's like big steep country, but vines and random wild fruits, and we found like like a wild orange tree that was probably like some pig had run up the mountain, and now there's an orange tree here, and you're like, oh cool, let's eat an orange. And then it's like, okay, let's hunt on, boys. So I thought that like that's just kind of fun, and you really don't know what you're going to encounter there. Like it's difficult hunting with when you're. I will say this, like how many of us? There was 4 of us. 4 people, like still hunting through the thick cover, difficult.
Not
one person, like you can kind of sneak in and you see, like you have a lot more opportunity. But we still had a few opportunities. And I like that country too because the opportunity for pigs and other stuff in there as well. Like you kind of a little bit more of a smorgasbord where it's like, yeah, you got goats, you got pigs, you got deer. You just don't really know what you're going to run into there.
Yeah, so which we ran into all the things.
Yeah,
actually,
I think when we sat down just to take a break, it wasn't just to get catch some water, get a snack, and all of a sudden, I think within a half hour, we seen every species we were essentially targeting.
Yeah, that was cool. So we had a couple. We spooked a huge pig, kind of off the go. Like you're not right off the go, but like we're down low pretty still.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a lot of pigs in my life. But I do think that was the biggest one.
That looked like a wheelbarrow running through the jungle. Literally. It was giant.
That thing went up like a pretty steep slope pretty fast.
It's very impressive. It was a very impressive specimen. I don't know. Like Remi, like you have a lot more experience with pigs. Like was that like a big one? Was that like an average one?
Yeah, that was a good pig. That was a pretty big pig. They do like when you just all of a sudden see a pig. It's like bears, They all kind of look big, but that was a pretty good size. That was
when it's like the one time Remi, I was like, Remi, are there cattle up here? And he's like, no, not at all. I'm like, well, that thing down there looks like a cow. It was huge.
There was some big pigs in there.
It was huge, and I'm like, that's something like prehistoric.
Yeah, but they eat good for sure. I think they know where all those big mango trees are, all the fruit trees, and like imagine being a pig and just constantly eating high sugared fruits, right? Guavas, mangoes, whatever else, oranges apparently. Yeah, they eat good.
Yeah, and yeah. So speaking of pigs, even more, it's like Coop said, we kind of stopped to like. Which I think that was kind of in an area that you had identified as like a generally gamey zone that you'd been in there. So we kind of stopped, take a break, grabbing a snack, and like a couple pigs roll through. I'm able to get, I wouldn't say it was the biggest pig in the world, but hopefully it's the tastiest pig in the world. Yep. I've been saving it for a special occasion. But the small pig goes through, get a shot at it. End up getting it with the bow, which was super cool.
That was super cool.
Yep.
None of us were ready.
Nope.
We were in snack mode.
We were in snack mode for sure. Yeah,
but totally neat colorations. Like I've got some pictures of it, and the way that its coat blends in with the leaf litter is like uncanny. Like it's almost like. You would really have to they come in different. Like we saw black ones and whatever,
white and
right?
reds, yeah.
But it was pretty cool. So we got him, which was neat, and then got him cut up, and he was I guess matching the theme of micro axis deer. Like he was kind of like a micro pig.
That's fair.
You put him in your backpack and off you go.
They taste phenomenal.
Yeah. And then we go up the mountain a little bit further. So now we saw some axis deer from that spot too, but nothing like came close, And the one thing, like particularly in that area, I was like, you really can't see that far. And we saw like a couple pigs on a couple different occasions. On a couple occasions, we see axis deer filter through. And you're like, and this is all within like not. Like it just made me like I'm like how much game is actually like creeping around this jungle that you like all the time that you just can't see.
Right. That country's insanely thick. I mean, it's wild. It's almost like Jurassic Park.
I feel like it's fair to say like if you were seeing 25 yards, you were doing pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Yeah, well, there was those parts where it's like we're crawling, and I'm like, oh, these guys have to hate me, like crawling through that lantana, that just brush that grabs you, and like on our hands and knees, like under tree. I mean, you could probably see an arm's length, if that. It was like kept having to stop and see who's coming through the bush.
Oh yeah, there would be
me.
times where like you guys would be like 5-10 feet ahead, and you could hear you, but we couldn't see you.
Yeah. It was thick.
That's probably where my Western Washington hunting roots like helped me out, because I was like, oh, this is normal. But
yeah,
yeah, this is how you hunt elk. But so that was cool. We go up the mountain a little bit more, and then all of a sudden, I mean, that's the other thing. Like out of nowhere, like just like you're there, and then all of a sudden, poof! Here are two big billy goats.
The Jungle Billy.
Jungle Billy.
Jungle Billy.
And they're just like there, and Remi's leading the charge. He's ahead of us, and then like Remi, like what? Describe this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, we're just essentially we hit a ridge where it opened up a little bit more because it kind of dropped off really steep on one side, and then like this kind of ridge, and then out popped some goats. I don't even know if I've seen goats up there before, so I was like, ooh. Jungle Billy, and and I was ahead of everyone just so like because I only had the one arm, so I was trying to give myself a little bit of an advantage. I didn't tell them that though. I was like, yeah, cool. No, so they walk across, and I just knock an arrow, and I look back like I was trying to get Mark to come up, and he's like, that's not gonna happen because they're moving, and I was like, all right, bite down, draw back, give it a little aim, and let her fly, and hit the goat good, and it just bombed off the steep side. And I'm like, oh well, we're gonna find that one in the bottom. So yeah, we found some trails down. It was like that was steep. I mean, I wouldn't say it was vertical, but it's about as steep as you can walk on. There was like enough jungle stuff you could like grab on, and then you'd be like dropping down to another almost like game trails that kind of went straight down it. Yeah, we kept having to watch where we were going and everything. I don't know how many people took a fall. There was one spot where I turned around and be like, hey, be careful of this. And then someone falls. And then, who was it? Coop, you fell?
Yeah.
And then I tell, was it Mark next? And I was like, Mark, be careful. Just boom. Just
and then ended up on my lap pretty much.
Yeah. I was like, all right, this is how we're doing it. It's cool.
It's one way to get to the bottom.
That was the only time I was actually wishing that we somehow had like a third cameraman to document just like literally like you said, it was like boom, and then like you're like, oh, I should look out for that boom, like, oh, I should look out for that boom. But
that kind of reminds me.
I was like fumbling with my phone to get it out. I was like, hey, watch out for that. Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
You all right?
Hey, Mark, he just fell. Yeah, no, I got it. Okay.
That reminds me of that one stalk we went on in the lower country where I was last in line, and all three of you guys are ahead of me, and you all tripped over the same rock, and I was like, okay, there's a rock there. Don't trip over it. Walked right into the rock.
Yeah,
that was a
Didn't
tricky
skip
one.
A beat.
Yeah, that was so cool though. Like seeing those billies come out, and like you said, Remi, like I just knew like. I knew the time frame for which that was going to happen, and me moving ahead was not part of that time frame at all. I think I said, I'm like, just kill him. And like, dude, you drew back, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like I'm like, it was probably like even more fun to watch it happen because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. And then you shot with your mouth tab, which is still, I think you shoot better with a mouth tab than I do regular. And I see that arrow hit, and I was like, "Oh, good shot!" Like it was just like it looked perfect. Like I was just like, "Oh, that was awesome." And he, like you said, he pitched down over the other side, which you're like, that's maybe not so perfect, but we got him though. Like we trailed him down and had pretty good blood the whole way. And he just, I think gravity kind of took hold shortly after the shot. Sure. Really.
Yeah, and then just in the bottom where it was essentially like two waterfalls would have converged if it was wetter. There wasn't any running water in it, but pretty cool little box canyon down in the bottom, and then cut him up, packed him back. We thought about walk. Yeah, that's one of the things like in that kind of country, you're just like, we're kind of like, oh, let's just see if we can drop down, and we got cliffed out immediately. I'm like, nope, got to walk back up. So walked back out.
Yeah,
normally those billy goats stink real bad too, but that one wasn't so wasn't bad. I don't know if it's just like the real wet country that he was living in, just kind of kept all that nasty billy goat smell off, but it wasn't so bad. That was a good billy to take.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember like you commented, you're like, oh, this dude doesn't really stink. And then like, I was like curious. I'm like really tried to like, and I'm like, it doesn't really smell like anything.
No,
like,
it didn't.
I noticed like after the fact, like after just like whatever, manipulating the head, blah, blah, blah to get pics, it did smell a little bit, but not near to the level of what I would assumed, hearing that, hey, these animals reek.
Yeah. So that was cool. And he was a big one.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think, and then like you said, we were like, oh, let's, maybe like we'll take this drainage out. And then, like you said, got cliffed out immediately. And then
turned around and climbed out.
Climbed up the hill.
Climbed out.
And then by that point, we had the pig, we had the goat. It's getting a little bit later in the day, so I think we hunted a little bit more, and then just kind of, we took a little bit to get up in there. And I never felt like there was a spot where you weren't hunting, So like,
yeah, you're like always in the game, Like the moment you leave the truck, it's like we're in the game.
Yeah. So, which makes it nice when you're like heading out. You're like, all right, let's go. You're like, well, no, let's just, hunt our way out. So that was cool. We hunted our way out to the truck and had some success. And yeah, I enjoyed like the jungle. Like I liked the terrain. I liked the plants, the fruits. Like it was mysterious. Like you just never knew what like 10 steps might bring, or just waiting for 10 minutes might bring. Like it was.
And I feel like it was like to me, I've never been to like the jungle, if you will, but like that was the jungle. Like it's bluebird skies, and then like 5 minutes later we're getting rained on.
Oh yeah, because constantly just random things rain.
And like in the camera guy world, we're like, oh, we gotta cover cameras again. Oh, here we go. 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. But it's cool.
Yeah, not the most conducive to electronics.
Yeah.
We may have went down a lens on that, huh? But that's all right.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah. We always break something.
But yeah, I like that. That was cool. I liked it in there.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was definitely cool to see like I guess to my knowledge, the two differences in Hawaii. Like I would have just assumed it was all like the lower land stuff, and then you get up into what looks like decent mountains, doable country, and then you get into it, and it's jungle. For sure.
Oh yeah, and it's steep too.
Is.
Like there's definitely a lot of
steep.
Like the route that we went up. Like have you hunted much of the jungle, Remi? Like can it be difficult to even pick a route to get up into where you want to be?
Oh yeah, no, we went the route that I knew we could get in there. There's places like you get like we tried to go out a way that I'd never been, and it was like, nope, we're cliffed out. That's why we go this way, because. Yeah, there's definitely. You can easily get into places that you just can't get up or get down for sure. It's like you just don't know.
Yeah, I don't care for that.
Or just exactly. So
we got out, and bring some water. Water's key.
Yeah.
You can go through a fair amount of water.
Yeah, what is it?
Hot.
85.
It's sticky in there.
Sticky. Oh yeah, you're sweating.
So yeah, we got out. We hunted the next day.
We gotta go back to the first morning, because the first thing that I spotted, or maybe Sean might have spotted. So we're like, before we saw the deer, I looked down at because I was like, deer hunting is awesome. I love chasing axis deer, but I was more like marks on deer. I really wanted to shoot pigs, and the first thing in the morning, I see this like nice ginger pig. It was like a red pig with like a white. I was like, dude, that's the pig of my dreams right there, the old ginger pig. And these guys were like, oh, cool, a ginger pig. And I was like, yeah, no, it's really cool. I really want to shoot it. So I was like, okay, in my head, what was going through my head is like, I better hurry up and find a deer so I can go kill that pig, because I wanted to like slow play it, like, so nobody really cared about the ginger pig, But I was all I talked about the whole trip was like the ginger pig that got away. Yeah. And so we went back to that spot that evening after shooting the goat. And I think you guys were like, oh, let's go shoot goats. And I was like, and then I spotted some axis deer, and I was like, the goats are cool, but I'm going to go stalk these axis deer. And you guys are like, cool. All right, you go do that. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I like snuck into like 30 yards on, there's maybe $3 or $4 in there. And I was just like waiting. I was waiting for a doe again, same deal. And I look down and I see the ginger pig, and it was just like, oh, it's on. And I was by myself. I crept down there. I think like I got 30 yards. And I was trying to film it myself with my phone, but I had nothing. So I was like sticking it in the tree, and it kept falling out, sticking it in the tree, falling out, sticking it. So I think I was sitting on it for a while, and ended up just saying, forget it, and then drew back and shot it and had myself the ginger pig. But I only had one hand, and I couldn't use the one. So I had to skin it one-handed, left-handed. You know how you hold a pig foot when you've only got one hand and you need the other one for your knife and you can't let your cast hand touch it?
Say it ain't so.
I'm not saying I didn't. That was like the hardest thing. That was way harder than shooting a bow one-handed is skinning a pig one-handed, I'll tell you that much. And then my phone died, and I ended up packing it back and meeting you guys after dark. You guys got on some goats but didn't shoot any, right?
I believe that's the night we seen that big group of goats,
the
right? Towards
group.
the really sketchy coast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Into the lava rocks.
Yeah.
Into the ankle busters. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, we got on them, and yeah, just like
We kept being, we were like
interesting,
right there, like multiple times. We were just that close.
ended up not working out. But one thing also I'll say consistent, like Remi, obviously like you've got, the one hand operation here, but you also refuse to accept any sort of help at any point in time. Like I'd say somewhat stubborn in that regard, because
I thought I was asking for a lot of help. That's a lot of help for me. You guys, I was like, man, I'm so needy. These guys are probably so thankful to get rid of me.
Like totally opposite.
Like,
I'm like, man, I wish you would let me help with something. Like,
yeah,
what you could, I'm just saying, future state. What you could have done is walked back and said, hey guys, I got one. And then we just come down and then we cut it up and then we leave. And then you avoid a pig mouth.
Yeah, that thought never crossed my mind. I was like, nah, just bite the pig's foot and use your left hand to cut it open.
I'm not surprised at all.
Not surprised.
I'm not surprised, and you might not be surprised that that's a thought that would not cross my mind.
Yeah.
But, man, I'm generally okay with outside germs, but I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But that was super cool because, like you said, the ginger pig was definitely like a common theme that, like, I feel like it's interesting to hear. Like, you're like, oh my god, ginger pig, and they're like, be cool, don't talk up the ginger pig. But you couldn't not talk up because
I talked up the ginger pig.
There's a lot of talk.
I was like,
ginger pig.
it was kind of like I was just staking my claim. I was like, you guys can shoot anything you want. You can shoot the deers, you can shoot the goat. Like, you get first shot on everything. But if ginger pig shows itself. And I think you guys knew, like, when I came back with the ginger pig, you're like, you went over there for the ginger pig.
Yeah.
We all looked at you and you're like,
did.
All right, Remi, what did you shoot? Like, you just looked at us with this sick look. Ginger pig. You're like, you bastard.
Yeah, you guys go over that. Why don't you go over that way? I'm going to go check over here for a little while.
The solo assassin and ginger pig.
I mean, like, I had no doubt and was not surprised that what transpired.
Well, especially when you get back at dark, and we got back like right at dark, and I feel like we all kind of got back at the same time generally, and then all of a sudden Remi's not there, and it's like, okay, did something happen or did he kill something? Because he definitely killed something, and we all knew that.
Well, and then, classic, this has happened to me before, like, I think your phone died, like, because I think you could get some, like,
a little bit.
The spotty, yeah.
But anyway, you're good. You were fine. You couldn't talk on the phone anyway. You had a pig foot in your mouth.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
You sound a little muffled. Oh, that's the pig foot. But that was super cool. So so we got back with, the the trifecta, or really we had I guess the two pigs and the goat, that night, and then the next day we went out, and that's where when Remi talks about We shot some younger does, which with the rifle, which was like awesome. Like we kind of came full circle there, and you know, once again, Remi spots,
Shocker,
a common theme, and shot one with the rifle. Remi grabbed my rifle and shot the other one, and actually that's what I had for dinner last night, and then had some leftovers for lunch today. So like this is like perfect timing for the podcast.
Heck yeah. Remi, speaking of, how'd the wrist fare after that shot?
Oh, I mean, it was. I wasn't really holding the gun very much, so I mean, because I couldn't, you know. It was awkward.
It seemed like it might.
Yeah, it was like Mark had shot one, and there was two of them together, and the other one, I was like, well, we're here, you know.
Might as well.
I mean, that looked fun. Might as well.
Yeah, when in Rome. When in Rome, what?
Yeah. It was fun. And I was like, that's the perfect eating deer. I actually, I've got some defrosting right now, so that venison looks like pork. It's like white meat. It's so good.
I mean, you couldn't describe it like any other way. Like that. Like when I pulled. In fact, you know, when I was pulling it, I was going through the freezer last night. Like I had to do like a double take. I'm like, oh, is this part of that pig? And I was like, no, this is marked axis deer backstrap. But yeah, it's just so tender, so mild. Like it was, I can see why you'd be like, yep, I'll take 10 of those, please.
Mm-hmm. Fill the freezer.
So that was neat. That was like
delicious.
just like a really cool way to, you know, I guess we kind of capped it off.
Yeah, kind of capped it off.
But then Remi felt strongly that I shouldn't leave the island without a goat. So then we went bow hunting, you know, chasing that herd around for a while. I missed wide left on 2, like wide.
Way wide left. Yeah. I was like, well, the first time, okay, so we sneak in and Mark shoots, and I was like, I think there's something messed up with your bow. And Mark is like, it could have been me. And I was like thinking to myself, like, if that's you, we have some serious problems, dude. Like, it was like 10 feet left. I mean, it was so far left. And, we're like, okay, well, they didn't run far. Let's sneak in again. So we move in again, and what happened? And then it happened again. Same, like, exact place.
I mean, same thing happened. But then, like, also, like, on the first shot, Remi, like, I'm like, well, it could have been me. Like, you know, whatever. Like,
for sure.
But also, I didn't see the arrow. Like, I heard the arrow hit something, but it was so far off that the arrow was not anywhere close to my line of sight of, like, when I was staring at the goat. You know, and sometimes you shoot and, like, you know, you just don't see, you know, I don't know. I didn't see the arrow, so I was like, well, I don't really know what happened other than I missed. And then on the second one I'm shot at, I was like, oh, yeah, like, that's like, I mean, I can miss. But
well, yeah. And then remember when me and you stalked in and Coop, you looped around, you took a shot at that, and it hit. I mean, we saw it. Remember in the super slow-mo, it was like it hit a rock and bounced, and it's like at that point, we're like, okay, something's probably up here.
Something, yeah.
I mean, and it was windy.
And
that
was like post. You know what I mean? Like, even that was, but like, I didn't see that shot either. But then, like, you know, like, you start to put 1, 2, 3 together, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know? And so, yeah, something was definitely wrong with my bow. Remi made then we went back and shot it just to confirm that like, it was off. And Remi made I'd call it a gross manual adjustment of the bow sight. It got it pretty back close on.
I looked at it, and I was like, that doesn't look right, and just pulled it. I was like, now try it. It's like, yeah, that worked.
Looks great.
Yeah. I think it was like the third act. That's one thing. Dude, that's a tip for people right there, man. Check that third axis, because it's the one thing, like, I think that's what had been, right? Like, you're somehow the sight had pushed away, but it was in such a way that it was actually kind of hard to notice. And it was substantial how far it moved the point of impact.
It wasn't, the animals were safe.
Very
They
safe.
got a little bit smarter that day.
But then after we really sorted out that, we're like, you know, I don't really, it's like, yeah, we got it back on close, but like not super, you know what I mean? You just like, I don't know, you just want to, be as confident as possible. So then we picked up the rifle and then got on the herd of goats and got one. Got a really cool, like, it was like, I was stoked. Like, those goats, they're interesting. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of different colors.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's different. Everyone looks different. Like you said, to the colors, to their horns.
Their horns.
Yeah.
Like, the goat that you shot, Remi, like, had these, like, crazy cool, like, almost spiral to them. And then the one that I shot, like, I think you called it, like, a mini ibex.
Yeah, it looks just like up and back, like, and had that kind of like ibex cross on the back. Really cool looking. Probably some kind of maybe ibexy blood. It just had that like that ibex look. It was cool.
So that dude was super neat looking. So it's cool. It's cool to like, even though like it, obviously, trying to get one with the bow, it didn't work out, but like it was cool to get one with the gun, and like felt like made a good shot with the rifle. Like I think it was like, I don't know, not like a exceptionally long shot. I think it was like, $130 or $150 or something like that. But, poof, put it right where we wanted it. And goat went down and got him packed out. And then we rolled back, got back to the house. And then I think we were organizing gear and doing stuff like that. And then Remi just went hunting again.
Yeah.
It was fun. You are the Terminator. Once you are set in motion, you cannot be stopped.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I was like, I got to go look for a big buck. I think I might. That was probably the only, I don't even know. I didn't even see. That was probably the first time I haven't seen like a buck that I was like, ooh, I want to try to shoot that deer.
Yeah, that buck that you and I stalked in on, that was remember that was a decent buck.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of leaving out a couple hunts.
That's right. Yeah, that would have been the only one that I think I would have shot. Because I was like, yeah, he's borderline, but I was like, I'll shoot that one. Yeah, that was the only one, and it was in some real dry country, and he bedded, and so he started crawling in. Yeah, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, that was tough hunting down there.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I kind of skipped over a day when we hit a different piece, and yeah, it was like we really hunted like 3 very different places.
Oh my gosh,
for sure.
Yeah. That was like 90 degrees, sun beating down, no wind, and then we kind of split off. You guys went your way, Rem and I just went our own way and tried to figure it out.
I like hunting that stuff, but you have to be by yourself. Like, there's no, I mean, if one person steps on a stick, that's it. Your hunt's over for the rest of the day. You get no chance, no redos. So, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was tricky in there, and there was like a fair amount of animals. Coop and I,
yeah, we seen a good amount of deer in there.
And Sean was with us in the morning for that, and we saw a fair amount of deer, and definitely, definitely could have gunned some down with the rifle, but we're predominantly bow hunting, like a little bit of both, but like, and that was just, it was just a trickier property all the way around, and the lava rock was gnarly in there. Like, that's probably the weirdest, hardest stuff I've ever tried to walk on.
I'd agree.
That's something else.
That's
like,
an ankle turner.
It's hard to even describe.
I've hiked a lot of places. That's the only place I've ever injured myself hiking. Is like like Hawaii, the lavas. It's just like the lava roll, man. You step on the one wrong thing, it just rolls out from underneath you, and that's it. I was like, yeah. It's tough.
So, because you told us that story a little bit while you're out there. So, like, so you hurt your foot, and then what did, like a fairly severe injury, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was broke.
Yeah, so it was the first day that I was hunting, and I was like so excited. I was like, oh, this is like the first time I'm chasing axis deer. And I was camping out, and I think I had like 2 or 3 days to hunt. And so first day, I see a nice axis deer buck. I'm up on this big ridge, and I was like, oh, it's down there. I'm going to get down there really fast and go shoot it. So I'm like running down the hill, and I've got my bow in one hand and I was holding the camera in the other. And the grass was probably knee high, so dumb, and stepped on one of those lava rollers and just wham, and we just went over. Like somehow my foot rolled off, got caught in a thing, and I fell over, and just heard pop, and I was like, "Oh, bad." So I just I stopped. I tightened my boot as tight as it would go, and then what did I do? And then I just hunted the rest of the day. I think I hiked like 11 miles by the time I got back to the truck. I was so dehydrated. I think it didn't swell up because I was so dehydrated. And then I think I ended up calling Sean, being like, "Hey, dude, you got any duct tape?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. For what?" I was like, "Oh, I got to fix something." And then like just duct tape, like took my boot off and immediately duct taped it as tight as I could, and hunted the next 2 days, and shot a deer, goat, pigs. It was awesome, but yeah, it was not cool. Broke my ankle or whatever, and then that was it. But that was the only time I've like injured myself hiking. I got pretty strong ankles too, so
just throws in there.
Like,
it was awesome.
Bad.
I broke my foot, but it was really cool.
Broke my foot.
I was so dehydrated though. I was like, my body had nothing to like make it swell. It
We're
like,
tling to swell, but we can't.
Yeah. It was like, I was like, it actually worked out all right, you know. Like, it wasn't too bad.
I'd say
I was like, well, you can't like, what, you're gonna break it more than you broke it? I mean, come on.
no. I think you can do that. I think you can make it worse.
This is okay. Yeah, the doctor that's like working on my perpetually jacked up hand is like, I listened to this podcast, and you definitely. I like every time I go and I swear, I was like, I'm not overusing it. I swear to you, I'm not even. I use my mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure 9 out of 10 doctors would recommend like, oh, you broke your ankle. Okay, here, get dehydrated first. Don't drink any water.
Don't drink any water,
and then just tape it up. You'll be fine. Yeah,
it'll be fine. Yeah, it'll buff for sure. It just pretty much fixed itself.
But yeah, I mean, I think that does speak to like how gnarly that stuff is to walk in.
Just like fatigue, like it just fatigues your legs because you're it's so uneven. Like your ankles are working so hard to keep you level. You just at the end of the day, we were just like fatigued, you know.
And especially like
different type.
I know you guys are in the same, roughly same train as us, but like we found in that particular chunk. That's where we found most of the deer were, especially the bigger bucks. So like naturally, we're like, okay, we need to be there. And then once we got into there, we're like, okay, we are in for the long haul. And it's like you're trying to hunt, but at the same time, you're like looking down at your feet so you don't pull a Remi. And then it's like you had said, Mike, it's like you just come out of there, you're like, wow, I'm fatigued. Like, I don't know if there's a better word for it, but it's just like you just feel like you're shot, but you're not.
Yeah.
I know a couple times, like I had like one of those like magic ankle rolls where you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know my ankle could be at a 90-degree angle. And then like it pops back up and you're like, oh, I guess I'm okay. I don't know. Like, I don't know how I'm okay, but it appears that I can bend like that. But, yeah, that was cool. Like, you know, I mean, like I said, we hunted 3 distinct areas, all distinctly very different in a lot of ways. But like the islands aren't huge, you know. That's what I find like interesting is like in the grand scheme of how like big places are, they're not that big, but they're so diverse in their landscape, you know. But yeah, awesome trip though. Like awesome trip.
Fantastic.
And, you know, and then, you know, we fished on the front end with Brian, and then we shot some goats and the axis deer and the pigs, and then just like Brian was able to offer to come over, and just like his culinary skills are
through the roof, man,
unbeatable, like
unbelievable,
like indescribably amazing. And then like
I still think that has to be one of the best meals I've ever had. That was
it's phenomenal,
guaranteed.
Dude, that
by far.
You made like this play on Spam musubi, which with the rainbow runner. So you did like a miso glaze on the rainbow runner, and then made like a little Spam musubi, but with no Spam, just rainbow runner musubi kind of thing. Dude, that I crave that like every day. I tell people about that all the time, and no one would get it. It's just so good. It was so good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
You snapped some heavy hitter photos of it though.
Yep.
So those will live on forever.
Who did I when I took the camera?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
did I get some
sauce?
One-handed snapping.
Crushed it.
I just put it to auto, guys.
He's like, a camera and a lens.
He's like, ooh, I like that lens. Let me use
that
it.
Lens.
But yeah,
fantastic meal. Next level.
That meal, just like, it was like the one time of the whole trip where like essentially everybody who was like on the trip, like which I guess that's kind of what food does a lot of time, but Brian and Chimo and Remy and Robin and us obviously, like, everybody's there, and Brian cooks that just like off the charts meal, just like with the Axis deer and the Rainbow Runner, and just like, I mean, doing stuff that's like mind blowing to me. Like, I didn't know you could do that with food.
Absolutely the best surf and turf I've ever had.
Yeah, it was just like,
if there could be an end cap to a trip, like, that was the cap.
Yep.
You couldn't have drawn it up better. Like, it truly was. It was really cool. And Remy, like, it was awesome just hunting with you and like watching you hunt and learning from you. Like I feel like I've hunted a lot, and then I was hunting with you, and I'm like, is this my first time? Like, what's going on? It was just cool, man. It was just fun. It was just like, it was really cool. So
will be a return tour.
Yes, we will. We shall go back.
So yeah, that's why we brought you here. We're actually planning our next trip.
Second half of this podcast, how to go to Hawaii.
Yeah. Put me in the car.
But I don't know. Like, I feel like, it's like any hunting story. You keep talking about it, and like even like you guys are like, wait a minute, you left out a day. It's like, oh yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, what any other highlights that we missed? Or
I mean, just seeing the diverse areas was super cool. We really got to experience the entire island. From 85 degrees mist, to the lava section, the massive herd of goats. Remember oh my gosh, what probably 500 to 1,000 goats just kind of coming through.
I mean, that's what it felt like. It was just like,
it was wild.
There was like that one spot that was just like a solid mass, and that is actually, when you look, you're like, man, I bet those things could be pretty destructive, like you said. Like, they eat anything.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they were eating with that many out there.
I don't know. I mean, it was zero vegetation.
No, like when I made that little circle around down there, it was like we were in some pretty, barren stuff. When I went down there, there was not a sign of vegetation, no life. It just smelled like goats, and there was a lot of them.
Amazing trip.
We just have to go back and, for the landscape.
Yeah.
For the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Remy, any parting thoughts on your end?
Man, I don't know. I think it was just a good time, and we covered all the bases really, and then it culminated in that meal, and it was like, yeah, a little bit of land, a little bit of sea, a little bit of everything. It was awesome. I think that we were very fortunate to kind of get to experience that. I know it's not something that everybody that goes gets to experience. We had even I was like, we didn't see as many animals sometimes you normally see, but it was still an incredible trip. We got into a lot of stuff. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there too. Like, super fortunate to be able to go, where we hunted. At first glance, you can look at, digital mapping software, something like that. And you're like, oh, there's actually, depending on, what island you're on, and you can go here and hunt this. But then, like, you start to dive a little bit deeper, and then, like, you kind of get past the surface, and like some areas, some public areas are like, they're only open on certain days. Yep. And then, like, we didn't even cover like the firearms rules. Like, that's a whole, if you want to bring a gun, like, that's a whole another layer of, registration and logistics there. And so yeah, we were fortunate to be able to go where we went and see the island the way that we saw it, because it was very special, and that isn't necessarily something that you can just like go do, right. Which is a little bit tricky, but so super thankful.
I'd agree to that 100%. I mean, from Robin's hospitality to in mine, I think Mike's case, experiencing Hawaii for the first time, I wouldn't want or change my first time in Hawaii at all. Like, I was fantastic trip.
No, it was off the charts. So you guys documented it. So got some awesome footage, got some awesome images. I think, we got the podcast. We'll have, kind of the film that comes out eventually. We'll probably have some blogs, that come out eventually, and kind of detailing, some of the stuff that we talked about today, and maybe diving into some of the, the intricacies of the island. But yeah, overall, Remi, just can't thank you enough for meeting us out there and really showing us around. It was just it was fun. I mean, we've known each other for a lot of years. First time we've ever hunted together, and it was cool. I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. It was definitely a fun trip. So I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. That's all I needed to hear.
Heck yes.
And on that note, everybody, thanks everybody for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed our recounting of this, super amazing trip and a super amazing place. And yeah, thanks again for listening. And aloha. We'll catch you on the next one.
There you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, give this video a like if you liked it, comment something below, and give us a subscribe to the Vortex Nation podcast channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, why don't you give us a follow over on Instagram while you're at it, at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you over there, and we'll keep you updated with all kinds of cool photos and videos from our adventures that we do here. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Thank you again. Happy hunting and shooting, everybody. Have a good one.